that they're just consultants, that they cannot create their own go as origin with Ethiopia. Imagine yourself in business. How are you? Which is your culture? What do you like actually to do in life? Yes, AI will be very fast compared to a person, but that's it.
Greetings and welcome to Coffee with Counsel, a podcast by School of Law, Christ deemed to be University, Pune Lavasa campus, dedicated to insightful discussions on law, policy, and the world beyond courtroom. I'm your host, Sanya, and today we're joined by Professor Dumitru, Dean of Faculty at Law of Bucharest, University of Economic Studies in Romania. Professor Dumitru has uniquely interdisciplinary background with degrees in both law and economics, a PhD in law, a PhD in energy, and an executive MBA from the Vienna University of Business and Economics. His work spans corporate law, construction law, contract law, European Union law, and business law, and he has experience both as a practitioner as an academic leader as well. Alongside his teaching and his research, he's been deeply involved in internationalization, industry collaboration, and strengthening the bridge between legal education and real-world practice. Professor, it's wonderful to have you with us. To begin with, could you tell us a bit about your journey and what first drew you to the intersection of law, economics, and academic leadership?
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure, next to the teaching activities and research activities, to have this kind of project, a podcast. I have to tell you that we are having also back home one, which is called Business Law Talks. So I'm enjoying this, and thank you for the invitation. In relation to my career, I started like 22 years ago. I was an attorney at law. And I entered education with a single scope at the beginning to improve my way of presenting the court, my plenary, and also to solve some anxiety issues. And after more than 20 years, I'm a dean of a school of law and no longer a practicing lawyer. Because in time, somehow I started linking with my university's community, students, colleagues, and other professionals, researchers in the university. Somehow I started thinking that I'm a better professor than a lawyer. I know why. I was forced to give up going to court because the schedule was too complicated to attend both. But I continued being a practicing lawyer as a consultant. At a certain moment, I stepped down from that, and I took over this position as a dean. So now I'm a manager of a school of law. I'm a professor of some subjects, some of them you mentioned. And it's been an interesting journey, not an easy one. And I'm trying to combine the two lives, manager and professor, and to be as good as I can in both.
I'm sure your professor, this shift journey of yours is going to be very impactful for our viewers. Professor, you've built a career that combines practice, academia, and management, which is quite rare. How did your early academic and professional experiences shape the way you look at law today?
I was involved, as you mentioned, in practice, so as a lawyer. I've been also in business from early times as an entrepreneur, early times meaning my youth. And at a certain moment I was even a legislator. So I got some experiences that I think helped me more in the academic activity. But I'm pretty sure that teaching also helped the other projects of my life. All those clearly made me see making law, enacting law in a certain way, and even being a lawyer, so applying law in a certain way, because as a teacher you have the tendency to go to the roots, to understand why. Sometimes it may be boring for the ones listening, but I'm pretty sure for the professionals and for the ones interested in how we enact legislation in our country at European level or internationally or in other countries, I think it's important. And in time, I got in different discussions with huge professionals that I respect, and it was a pleasure and an honor for me to discover that yes, they have common opinions with mine, that we actually are thinking to changing some things. So all those are not just competencies, are actually a conscience, a certain conscience that I got in time, and that I'm using in the end to rule in this moment, to manage a school of law, a young one, that I hope in the future will create lawyers, magistrates, and other professionals of law that will add value to the Romanian society, the international one.
Hearing from you, it actually feels like that your law school is going to prosper.
I hope.
Professor, let's move on to the fun segment. For a lot of people, company law as a subject is very monotonous. And since we are here at Coffee with Counsel, if company law would have been to be a coffee, which coffee would it be and why?
Well, I like coffee. I like making my own coffee. At a certain moment, even I had a class and I have a certificate of barista, but I'm not a professional one, clearly. I had other professions instead. And I would go as origin with Ethiopia, not necessarily to the location, but the coffee that I usually drink from there and I enjoy. And with double espresso. So that would be the origin and the type of coffee that I prefer and I may compare company law with. It's strong, it's offering you taste and a pleasure that cannot be compared to many other origins. And its acidity somehow, it's making you very decisive and somehow offering you a path. So company law for me, it was like that. I never saw company law boring in a certain monotonous way, but actually very dynamic, very alive. Always thought about the shareholders, how they created, why they created, the entrepreneurs, why they entered that field, the employees and the other stakeholders, how they're actually feeling about their company. So it's a community. Company, it's a community, it's a person in the end, even a legal person, but with a certain personality. So for me, it's very vivid, very dynamic, very complex. So I don't see like others, you say you are seeing it, on the contrary. So yeah, that's the coffee I drink usually. I change from time to time, of course. And this is how I see company law.
Yes. Professor, I agree with you that company law is dynamic, is vivid, and it's amazing to learn it. But there are a lot of students who think that company law is monotonous since it's compliance-based, it's very technical. How do you think law students, the evolving law students, aspiring lawyers, can see company law and help that company law is not monotonous to them? What are the certain things that they can do and perceive company law to not see as a monotony?
I do something like this, meaning trying to explain why you should learn company law to future entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs in MBAs, for instance, but at the beginning of their career. And because they see also law in general, not only company law, abstract and not useful and monotonous, like you said. And I go and say, okay, let's imagine yourself in business. How are you? Which is your culture? What do you like actually to do in life? So in that moment, you have to select a form. Today I had classes at MBA. We discussed about this and trying to explain the types of companies. We went a bit to the history, seeing why actually they appeared and why they developed in the way they developed, and why actually they exist today and why the state is regulating them. Explaining that not the state came with this. Yeah? They appeared because we wanted to invest, Comenda, the first partnerships there. We wanted actually to expand, so we had the charter companies. And we want a certain moment to be very active, but to be separate from the company, so limited liability. Those decisions were ours, were our lives, our ancestors, not ours, but still today we have these types of companies, and we may change in the future in different, and we have different new mixed ones. Yeah, each legal system has more or less the types of companies, mixed ones, but the idea of those is that we decide depending on the business plan. The same for law students. They will be consultants, they will be next to entrepreneurs, they actually will be there, not supervising, but watching how these persons are developing. Yes. So compliance means just procedures. They come and they're used over there in management, because like this you can see management very monotonous because it's very procedural. But procedures are there just because you want to be fast and let's say responsive and efficient. So there are tools of management, maybe tools, legal tools, to help us to get to the substantive part. But company law is the substantive part. It's about the company, how it's created, how it's managed, how may actually face some issues and has to solve insolvency or mergers and acquisitions. So in that moment, it's about life. So this I would explain. They will be there watching and maybe even living together with entrepreneurs, with managers, with others involved in the activity of a company, employees, and all are connected. Labor law, different specialized fields in companies are going, securities law, competition law, again, general, consumer law. They are all connected to the decision to be a type of company or another, to the decision to have a certain type of management or other, to the decision to, find solutions to reorganize the company or go insolvent or bankrupt. So all those decisions are human decisions. They are not AI, they are not robots. And all the other subjects that might not be compliance seen are actually connected to the most vivid, how you act. So more than this, if they don't understand this, then they have a problem coming to School of Law.
This was beautifully explained, Professor. Building up to that, you said that companies at the first place existed because we wanted to invest. So you did explain how the companies existed. But in the modern world, I would like to ask you that there are so many startups coming in. There is foreign investment. Nations are actually, collaborating with each other with respect to business developments and AI. So artificial intelligence, with respect to some company law lawyers or law students, they have this fear that artificial intelligence will take on to their profession. So I want you to answer these two questions, that is upon artificial intelligence in our profession, and when these startup culture is blooming and these collaborations that nations are coming and merging into each other with respect to business, what is your take on that?
Now, are many professions, I think the majority of professions are afraid of artificial intelligence, and lawyers are also in this discussion. And this profession is afraid because being consulting, in that moment you said, that you find the solution somewhere else, and also you place a scenario over then on any of the platforms, any of the solutions of AI, and they will give you the possible solution. First, I will go back to what is a company and how vivid they are, and the idea that what AI is giving, at least for the moment, I'm pretty sure in the near future and forever, is among the possible scenarios that we created in time. Even the self-learning AI in the future, without the spirit, without the personality of a human, is kind of difficult to invent, to create something which cannot understand. If you think about the American movies or even other movies, not to go now just to Hollywood, but there are many movies over there with artificial intelligence, with robots actually getting to love someone, to have a conscience. For me, it's very hard to imagine that, but even getting there, it's very hard to replace humanity and what happened and how we understand life and how we understand company and corporate life. So I won't be afraid of this, because those scenarios will be strict ones. Over then will be compliance. Yeah. So you ask which are the best solutions depending on certain criteria. Yes, AI will be very fast compared to a person, but that's it. That means that lawyers may use AI to help them in their decision, because it will be faster giving the lawyers the information. But to decide, it's just like an entrepreneur calling the lawyer to take a decision on business. I always say to entrepreneurs this: the lawyer can be next to you, can explain, but you have 3 scenarios. You have to choose. Because opportunity, we say in management, is of the management, is not of the compliance of the consultants. So in that moment, if the lawyer starts replacing you, you have an issue as an entrepreneur, because you know the business, you feel the business, you have the goal, the lawyer is just helping you. So AI will be the lawyer of the lawyer, from my point of view. So this profession, I'm pretty sure, no matter how it will change, won't be affected. It's not like in programming, where yes, it's an issue, but even over there, good programmers and developers won't be replaced, and they're not replaced. But yes, in the moment when you have robotization and your work is one automated one, in that moment you may feel a certain afraid. And I think in the future we may have some issues with some professions that will be transformed and never disappear, but they will be on the creative part, on the decisional part, and less the automated introducing data and placing codes in other parts. Over there, yes, robots will replace, just like in Industrial Revolution. We are afraid we had many workers, and the robots came in factories, and we are afraid that we don't have employees. We have less employees, they requalified. It was a shock, but the robots didn't actually take over everything, and they created the cars and they created the engines. No, the computation and the design, and also how we shape cars to our personalities and our lives, that is still human. So till I don't know what happens with the conscience of this AI, have a new person, create a new person, but that's a question that constitutional experts and others should ask themselves. I don't think we should be afraid as lawyers, but also professors. Imagine that now we have different platforms. I see as a professor every day in papers. You can see that they're automatic. Maybe in time it will be more creative, but as a professor, you can identify that the student is not actually really placing himself over there. The student taking the information online will still need the professor to explain, to compare, because that's creativity. For the moment, for the near future, and I consider that even for a long time, if not forever, AI cannot replace creativity, because that's why we're unique. Yes. That's why we love, that's why we have conscience, and that's why we're different than others on this earth.
Professor, as a dean, as somebody, as a leader who's responsible in making of budding lawyers and that transformation, how do you think we can embed AI into the legal education? As a professor, what is your perspective to an optimistic look of AI with respect to legal education?
I mentioned something in my speech at the colloquium as a keynote speaker, that law, it's helped a lot by digital tools, and AI is one of them. Because it's faster, because it's more of certainty. Clearly, robots and the hardware over there are faster than our brains. So even if they're not creative, they can compensate, and they compete with us, and they win this battle in being faster and being more precise. In education, if you have the databases, the right databases, AI can be your assistant over there. In legal education, imagine that you have case law. Very fast you can find, again, if you have the databases. So we should invest a bit more in having databases all over the world and connecting those. In that moment, imagine, instead of losing days, weeks, months, researching, you have a comparative research on different legal systems on a certain matter that you are writing on or are researching. In that moment, may actually be seconds or minutes in which you collect the information. You have a summary. You still have to check, oh, this happens with me now. I still have to check what is there, if it's really the one, because we may have opinions. We may have actually a wrong connection with the case law. Yes. But let's say this will be solved in the future. In that moment, will be just your assistant delivering the information very fast, and you take that information and you start building up. Just placing the information together and giving a certain structure and throwing does not being an author, does not being a student, does not being a researcher, clearly not a professor. So we can use it. Books might be threatened. There might be an issue, because if we start scanning all of them, you have all this information electronically. Yes, but this is what helps now company law, to integrate better, to have a setting up of a company in hours, to have also compliance checked immediately. By verification, of course, you need the tools, legal tools, to ensure the privacy, the private life, to protect the private life of the shareholders and the founders, in general, all the other stakeholders. Also, all the cybersecurity behind, because everything can be cracked in the end. So you have to that data to protect. But clean the moment when you have all these tools, and i.e. taking all this information and doing all the verification compliance. An Indian and Romanian can set up a company in US very fast. One, because the idea is to get into a project with American investor and develop something good for humanity. So in that moment, all this bureaucracy and all this discussions, negotiations will stop, because you'll just say which is the best for that, and you have the help. And you can do it because everything is coordinated, and I can help you just to take the information, compare, and say, for instance, let's say income. Maybe with my brain, maybe I lost something. I can tell me exactly what I am, and in that moment you have the financials ready, and that's it. I don't lose 3 days to see exactly what I have, where I have, and what I can deduct or not. So, and go to the tax consultant, and go to the accounting, and go to my university, and go to my... No, in that moment you collect the data, and that's it. It's checked, and you're associate, and you can do it. Criminal records also, and many others. So yes, it can develop, it can help a lot with the education, but on those aspects and not others.
Professor, 2004 was the year when you completed your law degree, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And 2027...
2003, 2004.
Yes, 2027 is when I will complete my law degree. So we do have a decade difference in between us. So what do you think was a positive and a negative thing? What do I have a disadvantage and an advantage if we compare our law journeys as law students?
I do this all the time, the comparison, and I don't do it as a reflex, not necessarily as something I plan, because I avoid comparing generations. This happened, for instance, with parents, grandparents we had, and they were comparing one with the other. Our societies are alike from this point of view. I was raised by my parents and grandparents, and over there it was about the village and how the family is placed and what you're doing, not to be something bad and bring the family in a certain position. The same in school. My parents were expecting good marks, and they compare me all the time with some other boys. The girls, that's impossible, because the girls had the better marks. But the boys, the best boys over there, had to be there with them to have the best marks. And this, it was a pressure, which I don't think was the best. So pressuring a youngster, and even worse, a child, may limit, because it's about self-esteem. It's about being independent. In the moment when you are told, compared all the time, you are told that you cannot do it, or you're not that good than others, it's a pressure. The pressure coming from families, the pressure coming from institutions, the pressure coming from communities. I notice now it's less, so we are more independent from the psychology point of view. All of us, but especially the ones who were born later and have other ways to adapt and communicate. So now I consider that it's a better communication from this point of view, meaning in school and related to professional life. Then we had, it was very hard to go to the boss and say that, you have a problem and others. Now youngsters are fear, they ask for help. It's not that pressure anymore. On the other hand, the digital life transformed all this marketing of seconds. I think transformed the brain of the kids, transformed the brain of the youngsters, and also transformed the way we are learning and we are adapting. Because me as a dean, I do also the social media part of it at my faculty, and I feel how I have to be very fast. In that moment, I realized that the rest, teaching or learning, or even other activities in life become very fast because I have a reflex from all this social media that I do as a professional. Personally, I'm not that into social media, but as a professional, I'm every day there. And this affected the way of life and the way of structuring information. I appreciate what's happening here in Lavasa because it's somehow not that fast and dynamic as in the cities, but it helps a lot the brain and the students to concentrate more, to be more patient, and also to understand that knowledge is gaining time, and you need time to compare, you need time to analyze, you need time to draw the conclusion. It's not the pressure of the big cities. Well, the big cities conquer the world. The villages not anymore. They are present in the just small schools. The universities, big universities are in the big cities. So I think this influences the current generations, and it's influencing also how we enact law and how we act in business and in life.
That's amazing. So, Professor, we would like to know how has been your time here at School of Law, Christ University, Lavasa campus? What about the students of law, about the faculties of law? How did that interaction go?
I didn't know what to expect. I noticed at the beginning that it's not in Pune or Mumbai. I know that you have different campuses, but I didn't know Lavasa. First day was discovering the place and not realizing where's the campus exactly, because we have different buildings here. But when I got to know the students and professors and the staff here and what is happening here, well, I was amazed. The tendency when you go into mobility is to compare with your school. In that moment, you compare, I don't know, technologies, you compare assets, infrastructure, also compare students, how well prepared they are and how they present themselves. But here it's a bit more. So here it's a community which actually offers, next to infrastructure, to learning and facilities, and also to the activities, projects, research, and all that, offers something else which is extra, and I think it's needed, and it's also what we miss in our university sometimes. A stronger community. Students live here together, and also they have their own extracurricular activities, but I noticed that they also interact, and they're very good connections also in class.
Yes.
So in that moment, a future professional will be in a positive way affected by this, because he has already all these discussions and all this networking, not like in big universities. When it comes to school, enters in projects, tries to work in team, and sometimes because of all those other activities in his life is somehow affected and cannot work in teams. This is something I noticed with my students. They have issues working in teams because of other things in life. Here, I noticed that the teamwork and the community is stronger, and this helps learning. This helps also understanding. The idea of being a quieter place and somehow not affected by the noise, and now I speak about the noise, let's say the physics, the one from physics, but also the one related to affecting our day-to-day life, different other activities, different other jobs, different other persons in our lives. I think it helps a lot, and it might be actually a model for a new type of education, in which you don't just go to school to collect some information and run away for something else, but you go to school to learn together with others. So yes, I was impressed, and I may consider it as a unique model because I haven't seen this in other places.
That's amazing, Professor, that you like the campus, the university. As we move to the ending of this podcast, Professor, what's that one misconception about the legal profession that you wish more students would let go of? That one conception you would want the law students to unlearn and see beyond that?
That they are just consultants, that they cannot create their own businesses or communities, and they are somehow have a role of the state in consulting, representing, assisting their clients. Now, they can do much more. And some lawyers, when they discover that they can do that, actually they get involved. And most of the time we watch American movies, and we see all the dynamic activity over there, but we don't see a lot of law in movies. And when we go to school and see that it's a lot of to learn, and then a lot to remember, and a lot to use later in practice, somehow we become very rigid. And again, we see us as just giving the answers to those who are asking. No, we should be there as humans. We should be there as builders of careers, as builders of companies in company law, and maybe as friends of those who are actually needing our knowledge. So yeah, this would be one, to not to see the legal profession as rigid, strict, or just consultancy one.
Yes, that's a wonderful note to end on, and a reminder of how dynamic, meaningful a career in law and especially company law can be. Thank you, Professor Dumitru, for such an engaging and insightful conversation. Your thoughts on legal education, interdisciplinary learning, and the future of the profession have given us so much to think about. On behalf of School of Law, Christ Deemed to be University, Pune Lavasa campus, we truly appreciate your time and your generosity in sharing your journey with us. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us to Coffee with Counsel. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring the conversations that shape the world of law and justice. We will be back in impactful episode as well. Until next time, your host signing off.